Welcome back. Today, I'm going to talk about a potential sell-off from Trump's inauguration. I've talked about this several times in the last few videos, and I'm going to explain why I think it's low probability for much more of a sell-off from where we're at right now, and the reasoning why I don't think there's going to be a massive sell-off, or at least I think, let me rephrase that. I think there could be a sell-off, but you got to ask yourself, how much higher are prices going to be during this sell-off? So I am a big proponent of the fear greed index and using it to time tops and bottoms. I timed the top over here around this area and sold all my crypto before this sell-off. If you go back, you can look as well. It tracked the sell-off in December 2023 and the March top earlier this year, where everybody was just euphoric. And then we had that 8-month chop market after that. So the reason why it's important to look at the fear greed index over here is because you can notice that there's a similar pattern playing out to what happened in December 2023 and also in March 2024, right? So you got to ask yourself, is the bull market over? Is it just getting started, or is it near the end? I've been more bearish than other people. I think it's closer to the end than the beginning. And so I think it's more going to be like this pattern over here in early December 2023, where it sold off into late January, right? So that would take us up to Trump's inauguration. So if it followed this pattern exactly, then then there would be a massive sell-off in late January. However, if you'll notice, the pattern over here is already very similar to this. Okay, so what you're saying is that there's going to be another sell-off and fear greed is going to dip into fear, right? And then that would also kind of signal that the bear market's probably over versus just beginning or in the 7th or 8th inning, like I think, right? So it's just like at some point you got to recognize the oversold conditions here. This is oversold, right? You can see it on all the different charts that we are oversold on multiple coins, right? And to top it off, we had this top reversal on Bitcoin, right? This was confirmed, and it's been ranging ever since. But we have this confirmed bottom over here. This blue B is a confirmed bottom on the daily, and it shows this on many, many other charts as well. So if you go to SUI, there are bottoms on the 12-hour. If you go to Sol, there are multiple bottoms on the 12-hour. Ethereum, let's see what Ethereum's doing. I like to look at majors first. Ethereum, 2 bottoms on the 12-hour. Do they have a bottom on the daily? No, they don't. But you also have to look at the RSI, right? So if we peaked all the way up here with the RSI, right, and it's selling off and resetting, if it sells off again, how much lower is it going to go? And then you also look at Solana, which hit the lowest level of its RSI since April 2024. That was like the lowest point. And that's when I was kind of saying, hey, I don't think we're going to go much lower. I think this was around $180 or 175 SOL. I was like, I don't think we can really go much lower than this, because the sellers, you run out of sellers eventually, right? How many more sellers are we going to get to push this? I mean, it would have to be like a historic low of RSI for SOL to sell off any further. Now, could this go up here, dip back down, chop around here, chop around 190 or something like that? Sure, it could, but at some point you just have to start recognizing that we're already oversold on multiple charts. I mean, SUI has, it could go a little bit lower, sure. But if we're still in a bull market, it's less likely for the RSIs to like kind of dip here. This happened during the consolidation pattern, the 8-month consolidation pattern, and it touched this RSI, the lows, multiple times. So it doesn't mean it can't hit this low of RSI again. It's just that given the market context and where we're at in the macro, it's very, very unlikely for SUI to reach this right now until we get into the bear market and we get some sort of distribution and sideways chop. The other thing that's very important to kind of look at as well is like Trump's, this is the most bullish setup for crypto of all time. They're deregulating tech. Trump is pro Bitcoin and pro crypto. He's buying Ethereum. He's going to do everything in his power to, foster innovation and grow the industry because he wants the U.S. to be crypto capital of the world, right? The other thing you have to keep in mind as well is why Trump will have to follow through with his word with making a crypto-friendly climate is crypto swung the vote in the Republicans' favor. It wasn't all crypto or anything, but they were able to tap into votes to kind of swing the election and win all the swing states and everything like that. This is a base that you really need to make sure you do them right, because if you do them wrong, they're going to turn on you. Okay, so there's a lot of parallels with the crypto community and Trump, right? I know Trump's government or whatever, he's a president and stuff like that, but the government of the last 4 years executed Operation Choke Point. The government's been against crypto since it started, right? They've done all sorts of weird tricks and censorship and said it was going to die multiple different times. And you could argue that that's what happened to Trump the last 4 years. So we can relate to Trump and the Republicans when the whole machine turns against them, and you have to get creative and find a way out of it, and grow things. And that's kind of like what Trump did as well. So it's like, when you look at all this stuff, and also if it's the most bullish setup of all time, you could also make an argument that my thesis of we're closer to the end of the bull market is also wrong. Because if it is the most bullish macro setup of all time, then we should be closer to the beginning of a bull market than the end. However, I will say that things that could be bearish for Trump in crypto are that he's going to get a lot of pushback, and it's going to be harder to make these pro crypto, pro tech deregulation rules, right? So those are the kind of sell-off points that you can anticipate of if everything's extremely bullish, right? And we're going to run, what could cause a sell-off? Like, what's the negative news? Crypto doesn't always sell off due to negative news, but you saw during the last 4 years with Operation Choke Point, FTX collapse, there's all this negative news that sparked different sell-offs. What it could spark a sell-off for crypto in the most bullish setup of all time is Trump getting pushback. He doesn't follow through with his promises. Those are the things that people are going to look to sell off. So it's good to anticipate that sell-off. But again, I bought in, sold 180, 181 is when I got back in, because my thesis was we're not going to go much lower. We have a triple bottom here. We had an attempted reversal, triple bottom over here. With these signals and putting everything together, it just would be extremely hard. The market runs out of sellers eventually. It would be extremely hard for it to go all the way down to 160, which it definitely still could. But I'm thinking in probabilities. I think it's a low probability. I think it's like 60 or 70, 60, 40, 70, 30 that we're going to resume a run, and then we're going to get a rally into Trump's inauguration. Now, will there still be a sell-off during Trump's inauguration? Sure, there could, but how much higher are prices going to be? Are we going to get $220 SOL, and then it goes down to like 200 or 210? Are we going to get $230, $240 SOL, and then it sells off to 220 or something like that? So that's the point I'm trying to make with this video, is like, sure, there could be a sell-off, but how much lower are we going to go from this point? The fear-greed index needs to go. If we just chopped around and then there was a massive sell-off during the inauguration, the fear-greed index would have to go all the way into 35, 40, range and go into fear. The market sentiment is already extremely low right now. You're looking at it right now. Sentiment is low. Some people are losing money. People got liquidated. So you just have to, make a stand eventually and be like, okay, I'm getting into this market. And when I got in at 181, I told myself, I'm going to hold this chop. I think this is a fantastic buy. Now, I could have sold multiple times when we touched like 199. We touched 200, right? Christmas Eve. I could have been like, okay, let's sell and book profits, and then bought down here, but that's really hard. It's hard to time that, because it's like if I sold up here, and then it went up and I missed the buy or something like that, I would be tilting and stuff like that. So when I bought down here, I was like, okay, if I'm buying down here, I'm going to hold the chop. And I got shook out one sell off a little bit, and I lost a little bit of soul. But then when it hit 180, 181 again, I said, no, this is the bottom. I'm going to hold this chop. I don't think things are going to go much lower. And so I've been holding, and I think we're going to get a rally into the inauguration after the new year. And sure, we might get a sell off if things get overheated again, but I don't think it will be directly because of the inauguration. I think, if we rally over here, remember, we creep up into greed. That's why this is important, right? You get into extreme greed and the market just can't rally much more because there's already too many participants, there's too much liquidity, there's too much leverage, and then the market sells off and we go back down here. So I think we're gearing up. Like, look at this. We're hitting these lows a month early, right? So we're running the inauguration sell off or whatever. And I think this pattern is going to end up like this right over here over the next few months. This is what I think is going to play out. So I think this is going to go back up to the 80s and stuff like that. And I'm going to hold on for the ride. And then, February, March ish is probably when you're going to want to start planning on getting out, maybe a little bit sooner, because you can't time a direct top or anything like that. So you got to make plans to get out sooner. So that's all I got. Let me know what you guys think about my thoughts. Of course, I could be wrong. I'm thinking in probabilities. I hope we don't sell off more. I'm more bullish now, but bearish long term on how much time this crypto market has to go. So yeah, let me know.